Someone close to you is lying to your face. And the most dangerous part is that you probably trust them. Not because you're naive, because your brain was designed to trust familiar faces long before it learned how to detect hidden motives. Right now, there's a chance you're replaying conversations, defending people who don't deserve it, or calling something loyalty that is actually quiet manipulation. Here's what almost no one tells you. The people most likely to change your life forever are rarely your enemies. Enemies stand where you can see them. The people who truly reshape your future often stand beside you, smiling, encouraging you, celebrating your wins. At least, that's what you believe. The most devastating betrayals don't begin with hatred. They begin with comfort, with routine, with the feeling that you finally found someone you don't have to question. More than 5 centuries ago, Niccolò Machiavelli studied rulers who lost kingdoms, generals who trusted the wrong allies, and powerful men destroyed not by armies, but by the people sitting closest to them. He reached a conclusion that is just as unsettling today. Human nature evolves far slower than technology. The faces change, the tactics don't. And here's the twist. Manipulation isn't always about making you do something you don't want. The most skilled manipulators convince you that every decision was your own. If that's true, how many choices in your life were never really yours? By the end of this video, you'll recognize 5 warning signs that most people notice only after the damage is irreversible. And once you see the first one, you'll never look at the people around you the same way again. The people who ask for the most are often the first to disappear when you need them. That's what makes this kind of manipulation so difficult to recognize. It doesn't begin with lies, it begins with dependence. Psychologists call it asymmetrical investment. One person keeps taking while the other keeps giving, believing the relationship will eventually become balanced. But it rarely does. Imagine a friend who only calls when they need a ride, money, or advice. Every time your phone rings, you're expected to rescue them. Yet when you're struggling, they're suddenly too busy. Over time, you start measuring your worth by how useful you are. Your confidence fades, your boundaries weaken, and you begin saying yes even when it hurts. The most dangerous part? Your kindness becomes predictable, and predictability is easy to exploit. Real loyalty values who you are, not what you provide. And the next warning is even more deceptive, because it hides behind words instead of favors. The person who tells you everyone else's secrets is quietly teaching you what they'll eventually do to yours. That's why gossip feels so seductive. It creates a false sense of closeness. In psychology, this is known as pseudo-intimacy. Sharing private information makes you feel trusted, even when you're simply being used as an audience. Think about the coworker who tears apart the boss at lunch, mocks teammates on the drive home, and then laughs with them the next morning. At first, you feel like you've been invited into the inner circle. But slowly, you begin censoring yourself, questioning what you've shared, and wondering what they're saying once you leave the room. Here's the unsettling truth. People who rely on gossip often use it to test loyalty, collect information, and gain social control. Listen carefully. If someone constantly destroys another person's reputation in front of you, they're rehearsing for the day your name replaces theirs. And the next sign is even harder to recognize because it doesn't attack you. It flatters you. The person who never disagrees with you may not be protecting your feelings. They may be protecting their access to you. That's what makes flattery so dangerous. It doesn't feel like manipulation. It feels like acceptance. Psychologists call this ingratiation, a strategy where people use constant agreement and praise to earn trust, lower your defenses, and gain influence over your decisions. Imagine a coworker who applauds every idea you have, never questions your mistakes, and always tells you exactly what you want to hear. At first, it feels reassuring, but over time, you stop seeking honest feedback. Your judgment becomes overconfident, and your biggest blind spots remain invisible. Here's the irony. The people who care about you the most are often willing to disappoint you with the truth. The ones who only protect your ego may be protecting their own agenda. And the next warning is even more unsettling, because some people don't just change their opinions. They change their entire identity depending on who's watching. The most dangerous enemy in your life may be the one applauding the loudest every time you succeed. That sounds impossible until you experience it. Some people don't resent your failures. They resent your growth. They smile, congratulate you, and tell everyone how proud they are. But beneath that smile, something else is happening. Every achievement you make quietly forces them to compare their life to yours. And comparison is where hidden envy begins. Machiavelli understood that people are often driven less by what they lack than by what someone else has. That's why envy is so dangerous. It doesn't need a reason. It only needs a comparison. Psychologists call this social comparison theory. We naturally measure our progress against the people around us. Most of the time, that comparison inspires us to improve. But for someone with fragile self-worth, your success becomes a threat instead of an inspiration. Rather than growing alongside you, they try to shrink you down to a level that makes them feel comfortable again. The frightening part is that they rarely realize they're doing it consciously. Their insecurity disguises itself as concern, humor, or honest advice. Imagine you finally earned the promotion you've worked years to achieve. You call your closest friend, expecting excitement. They congratulate you, but there's a pause. Then comes the comment, "Well, you were lucky your manager liked you." A week later, they joke, "Don't forget us little people now." Every compliment comes with a hidden needle. Every celebration somehow turns into a conversation about why your success isn't that impressive. At first, you laugh it off. Then, you begin questioning whether you really deserved it. This is how envy quietly rewires your confidence. You stop sharing your goals because every victory feels uncomfortable to celebrate. You start minimizing your achievements to avoid making other people feel insecure. Eventually, you begin editing your own ambitions just to keep the relationship peaceful. That's the real damage. Envious people don't always steal your opportunities. They convince you to abandon them yourself. Here's something most people never notice. Research in psychology has found that people often experience stronger envy toward those who are similar to them than toward complete strangers. A coworker, a sibling, a longtime friend, someone who believes they should be where you are. That's why betrayal born from envy feels so personal. They don't compare themselves to celebrities. They compare themselves to you. Watch their reactions more than their words. Do they celebrate your wins without immediately talking about themselves? Do they encourage your growth or subtly remind you why it won't last? Do they inspire you to dream bigger or leave you feeling guilty for succeeding? The answers reveal more than years of conversation ever could. The rarest people in your life are the ones who feel genuine joy when you rise. They don't compete with your happiness. They multiply it. Those relationships become your greatest source of strength because they're built on admiration instead of comparison. So remember this: never judge loyalty by applause. Judge it by how someone responds when life starts going your way. Anyone can comfort you when you're struggling. Very few people can celebrate you without secretly measuring themselves against you. And that brings us to the final lesson. Because once you understand these patterns, you'll realize that the greatest protection isn't learning how to control people. It's learning who deserves a permanent place in your life. The biggest betrayal you'll ever experience doesn't begin the day someone hurts you. It begins the day you ignore the truth your instincts have been trying to tell you. That is the lesson hidden beneath everything you've seen today. Manipulation survives in darkness, but the moment you recognize the patterns behind people's behavior, you stop becoming an easy target. Awareness doesn't make you cold. It makes you free. You no longer confuse attention with respect, flattery with loyalty, or closeness with trust. You begin choosing relationships based on consistency instead of emotion. And that's where real confidence is born. Remember this: character isn't revealed by what people promise you. It's revealed by what they repeatedly choose when there's nothing to gain. Once you understand that, you'll stop chasing approval and start protecting your peace. If this changed the way you see the people around you, let me know in the comments. Which warning hit you the hardest and why? If you enjoy exploring the hidden psychology behind power, influence, and human behavior, subscribe and stay with us. Because the next video uncovers a psychological truth that silently shapes nearly every decision you make without you ever noticing it. Until then, watch people carefully. Not when life is difficult, but when life rewards them. Because in the end, time doesn't expose who people were pretending to be. It simply removes the mask they were never meant to wear forever.